After misleading the public about Vice President Mike Pence, not funny comedian Jimmy Kimmel issued an apology and now says he is the victim of mean conservatives. Should he get any sympathy? Nancy Pelosi wants another $3 trillion in spending over coronavirus, complete with Democrat pet projects, and Senator Rand Paul takes on Dr. Fauci over reopening the country. All that and more. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour.
And God bless the United States of America.
All right, friends, welcome to the show. Happy Wednesday. I hope you're having a great week. We've got a lot to cover. Let's start with Jimmy Kimmel because he issued an apology for the video he ran on Mike Pence, but now he says that he is the victim of mean conservatives. And so for some background, last week, Jimmy Kimmel decided to cover Mike Pence. There was a video which was covered by C-SPAN of Mike Pence and his team delivering PPE to a healthcare facility. So Jimmy Kimmel ran with the video and said, look what he's doing. He's delivering empty boxes to this facility, all for a photo op, all for a PR stunt. Well, turns out Kimmel didn't watch the full video. The vice president delivered boxes, goes back to the van, finds out there's some empty ones, jokes about delivering those, then closes up the van and walks away. Kimmel didn't show that part, but that didn't stop the left-wingers from going nuts distributing this video that Kimmel did and showering the internet with all sorts of complaints and blasting of Vice President Mike Pence. Pollster Matt McDermott was one of the first to jump on board. He tweeted this: Mike Pence caught on hot mic delivering empty boxes of PPE for a PR stunt. So notice that tweet is labeled manipulated media. All right, we're going to get into that in a little bit. But then Matt McDermott kept going. He kept going in this Twitter thread, and he tweeted this: no better example of the institutional failures that have happened during this crisis than the vice president delivering empty boxes of masks to a nursing home before a gawking press. So you saw the first tweet. It was labeled manipulated media. All right. Twitter said, hey, this isn't right. So Jimmy Kimmel took it down and issued this apology. It would appear the VP was joking about carrying empty boxes for a staged publicity stunt. The full video reveals that he was carrying full boxes for a staged publicity stunt. My apologies. I know how dearly this administration values the truth. What a jerk. So you can imagine the blowback on Jimmy Kimmel, not only for posting a bogus video where he manipulated the message, but then also for that lame apology. So on Monday night, he got on Twitter and on his show and apologized again. By His Vice Majesty's request, my official on-air apology to the truth-loving, profoundly principled VP Mike Pence. Here's the thing. In this so-called apology, Kimmel spent most of the time blasting the administration. He was blasting Vice President Mike Pence, who's one of the best guys out there. Then he took his aim at President Trump and went through a laundry list of things that he wants the president to apologize for. And here are just the coronavirus ones.
Ignoring warnings on coronavirus, downplaying the dangers of coronavirus, mishandling the coronavirus. We still don't have tests for the coronavirus. Why are we opening the country when we have no tests for coronavirus? There are about 15,000 more, but let's start with apologizing for those, and we'll get to the rest.
Are you kidding me with that? But here's what freaks me out. Here's what I always wonder about, is that how many people see that, they watch that, and then they just assume it's true. They assume that if some celebrity, some non-funny comedian says something, then it's totally true. Because you could see, anyone who follows the news can see how bogus that is. He says there's no tests. There's been millions of tests administered. There's millions of test kits available. And he just says stuff like that. And I wonder how many people just simply believe it. But here is the real kicker. With all of this criticism, Jimmy Kimmel is actually claiming that he is the victim of mean and nasty conservatives. And here's a report from the Daily Caller. But the outrage from the MAGA hats, the outpouring of venom was disgusting, Kimmel said Monday. Stupid too, but mostly disgusting. Some of these lunatics have the audacity to use the word Christian in their bios, but that didn't stop them from wishing death on me, on my family, on my son. Some of them said they hope my son dies. They threatened my wife. There were hundreds of horrible, hateful, sometimes violent Twitter and Facebook posts, the late night host added, because I showed what they kept calling a doctored video. All right, so no one should threaten violence on someone for speaking, for the words they say, but give me a break with this disingenuous, I'm the victim here. What about Antifa? Folks that actually commit violence on conservatives. What about the threats conservatives get for just speaking out? What about those that go to restaurants or movies and are harassed? They can't even live their lives because the left is attacking them, abusing them, spitting on them, throwing insults, threatening them. This goes on all the time, and the left is totally silent. But Jimmy Kimmel gets some of it, and oh, he's the victim. So my question is, does he deserve an apology for what is going on with him? Let me know in the comments, all right? So next, I want to talk about Nancy Pelosi. But first, I got to tell you about my friends over at Bottle Breacher. You guys need to check them out. This is the best in Made in America products. We're talking groomsmen gifts, man gifts, promotional items. Just go to bottlebreacher.com, use coupon code Bobby13. You'll get 15% off your next purchase. All right, folks, we're going to talk about Nancy Pelosi because the Democrats want additional spending. They want even more. We're talking about $7 trillion that's been injected into this economy already from spending and from the Fed. Now Nancy Pelosi wants another $3 trillion on top of that. Basically the biggest bill that's ever been written in the history of the country. Here's a report from Fox News. House Democrats' latest coronavirus relief proposal unveiled Tuesday includes more than $3 trillion in new spending, amounting to the biggest and most expensive aid package yet to deal with the global pandemic, Fox News has learned. Of the more than $3 trillion package, about $1 trillion would go to state, local, and tribal governments, according to 3 sources briefed on the proposal. Another round of $1,200 stimulus payments also would go out to most Americans under the plan, with a maximum of $6,000 per household. Then, a flurry of cash would be allocated to struggling Americans, extending the $600 extra in weekly unemployment insurance through January, and a new $175 billion benefit that would subsidize rent and mortgage payments for Americans. So, here's a novel idea. How about we just write off 2020, say, you know what, this is a mess. You don't have to pay taxes this year. We're talking about no payroll tax, no income tax. If benefits and reimbursements, refunds from taxes haven't been sent yet, send those out. Let people keep their own money rather than the government picking winners and losers, saying we're going to give to you, we're not going to give to you. Let people keep their money. Let them do that rather than sending out money during this time of crisis, right? Why rely on the government to pick winners and losers? Let us keep our money. Let us keep that payroll tax, income tax, spend it ourselves, get the economy stimulated in ways we feel are best. I think that is an approach we should look at. And the other thing about this bill is the Democrats load it with crazy stuff. Apparently, voter ID requirements, rules, and regulations are somehow involved with coronavirus, and they want to strike those down. Here's a report from the Washington Times. Tucked inside the House Democrats' new coronavirus bill is language that would create a loophole in states' voter ID requirements, allowing people to cast ballots without having to prove who they are. One section of the bill would require states to allow at least 15 days of in-person early voting before Election Day this year, and to also allow voting by mail for any reason, overriding states that have more limited policies. The new bill would also require that absentee ballots be counted if they arrive up to 10 days after Election Day. And the legislation says that states that require voter IDs to cast a ballot must allow voters to meet that requirement by certifying to their own identity. So basically, if you say who you are is who you are, that should go. No voter ID. So Kevin McCarthy was on recently. He made an appearance talking about this bill and talking about Nancy Pelosi's underhanded way of trying to get it through Congress.
And now she wants to write a bill privately, not allow Congress back into the Capitol. You go to Starbucks and get a tea. You go over to the Senate and see them working, but not the Capitol, not the House. Why? Because Nancy wants to write this in private and try to put it on the floor and change 200 years of history on how people vote for the bill, just so she could have 200 votes in her pocket by a proxy and pass something that never had one hearing, never had any input, and has no accountability.
So you can go get coffee, the Senate's working, but the House isn't in session. And because of that, they can do these bills. They're trying to do these bills remotely, which means no debate on it whatsoever, no discussion, no changes. It's a very underhanded way of doing it. And also, McCarthy addressed the fact that part of this bill is an effort to bail out Democrat-led states that have been mismanaged from the beginning.
So I know there are a lot of states. If you look at Illinois, they have a credit rating is similar to Indonesia. I'm sure they want a lot of money because they mismanaged a lot of things. Before any money went out, wouldn't you want to have one hearing before you pass another $3 trillion? Wouldn't you want to have any accountability? Wouldn't you want to actually see what did they do with the $1 trillion we already gave them before you want to write another check?
Yep, that makes sense to me. And it's about time we have some accountability in all this, folks. If this passes, we're talking about $10 trillion in Fed stuff and what the government, the legislation, Congress has passed, if this passes. That's absolutely insane. We're just adding to our debt as if it's no big deal at all. Well, in the meantime, 35 plus million Americans are out of work. So I'll keep you posted on the legislation. I'll let you know how it goes, and we'll see what happens from here. So next, I want to talk about Dr. Fauci and Senator Rand Paul. But first, if you love the way this program goes, if you're a big fan, please subscribe. And when you do, please hit that bell. We're trying to make our push for 100,000 subscribers by Election Day. 100K by Election Day. And you can help by subscribing and sharing it with your friends. So, Senator Rand Paul, Dr. Fauci testified before Congress yesterday, before the Senate. And Dr. Rand Paul went off. He is so frustrated, and it was a great exchange because he's talking about the slowness that we're reopening the economy and his frustration over so-called medical experts that have had these dire predictions, and none of them have seemed to be right.
I think the one size fits all that we're going to have a national strategy and nobody's going to go to school is kind of ridiculous. We really ought to be doing it school district by school district. And as much as I respect you, Dr. Fauci, I don't think you're the end all. I don't think you're the one person that gets to make a decision.
I have never made myself out to be the end all and only voice in this. I'm a scientist, a physician, and a public health official. I give advice according to the best scientific evidence.
So that was nice. And again, Senator Rand Paul went on and listed other predictions that have been, remember the prediction of 2 million plus deaths? Other things like that have been wrong time and time again. And then he focused on the need and the hesitancy of some to get schools reopened.
But the mortality is exceedingly low, close to zero in the age group 0 to 18. Very, very low. So should we say all of these kids 0 to 18 don't go to school even though their mortality is so low? No, I think we ought to make that part of our decision-making process.
All right, so Rand Paul pointed out that we need to hear from varying medical experts, get different medical opinions, and weigh those against the fact that shutting down the entire economy was devastating. It was devastating to 35 million Americans who are out of work, to businesses that will not come back when this is done, to quarantining healthy people. They talk about worrying about the resurgence in the fall. You know what makes it worse? Having millions and millions of Americans that could have been immune to it, because again, 80 to 85% of people who get this have little to no symptoms, means you get it, but it doesn't even do anything. Those people could be immune when it comes back again and have much better chance of interacting with the elderly and the vulnerable when you have this big group of people that are already immune to it, have the antibodies. Instead, we shut down the economy. We don't build the herd mentality or immunity, and now we're going to suffer for it. This is not the way to do it. We need to get the economy going. We need to get kids back in school, and hopefully Rand Paul's voice will resonate and more people will follow that lead. So next I want to talk about elections because they had some special elections last night. 2 particular House races took center stage, and here's that report. Candidates backed by President Trump were outperforming expectations in two closely watched congressional special elections on Tuesday night, as former Navy combat pilot Mike Garcia inched closer to retaking Democrat Katie Hill's California seat, and Republican Tom Tiffany easily prevailed in Wisconsin. Now, the race in California's 25th congressional district with Mike Garcia is big because it has been over 20 years since a Republican has been able to take a Democrat seat. So that is really big news, and here's more. Garcia grabbed a substantial early lead Tuesday in the fight for the open U.S. House seat north of Los Angeles in the swing 25th district, giving California Republicans a chance to claim a Democrat-held congressional seat in the state for the first time since 1998. With 76% of precincts reporting, Garcia was leading Democrat Christy Smith 55.9% to 44.1%. Trump lost the district by 6 percentage points in 2016. He went out of his way to promote Garcia in recent weeks as strong on guns and immigration, and some Democrats had hoped he would be a liability in the race. Former President Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, and other high-profile Democrats all lined up behind Smith. So that looks like a big win because, again, Hillary Clinton carried this district in 2016. Republicans haven't been able to grab a Democrat seat since 1998, so that was awesome. Folks, that's our show for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe, and when you do, please hit that bell so you'll be notified, and we'll see you next time. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour. Okay, friends, thanks so much for watching, and before you go, please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell so you'll be notified, and here's a special video just for you so you can watch even more of the 13-minute news hour. And don't forget to check out GOPUSA.com for the best in conservative news and commentary. We'll see you next time.